So, much like all the other videos I've made, this is kind of like a continuation of the research that I've been doing, kind of thinking about this whole idea, how can we save Venus, the planet Venus? And I found out something else that's even actually more plausible. So first of all, in order to save Venus, we'd have to figure out how to get rid of the sulfuric acid, how to dissolve it without creating any more problems. And here's what I figured out. Okay, so sulfuric acid is obviously pretty hazardous. It's actually, aside from your stomach acid, sulfuric acid is probably the second most, well, that I know of, the second most hazardous acid on the pH scale. So essentially the way the pH scale works is anything that's below a 7 is an acid, anything above a 7 is a base, if I got that right. And so essentially the way sulfuric acid works, it's a 0.3, so it's like 30%, before it becomes a 0. Sulfur, I believe your stomach acid is like a 0.1, somewhere around there. It's like pretty bad actually. Anyways, I had to look that up again, but I could have sworn it was like 0.1 or something like that. 0.13 or 0.13 or something like that. It's like or 0.111, pretty close. So somewhere around there. I'm sure it's around there somewhere. Sulfuric acid's a pretty powerful element, or substance, I should say. Sulfur. So, well, here's another way of looking at it. So if we could just separate it, we just, and then we just clean up the mess after that, because Venus is the same, the atmosphere of Venus is almost the same size as Earth. But the problem is, though, if we erase sulfuric acid, we pretty much are downgrading the size of Venus. And the way I look at it, but the temperature would definitely go down, though. And while there would be so much sulfuric acid, because here's the thing, here's the way we look at it, though, that sulfuric acid has got to go, because that is the main culprit here in this case, because it creates this endless planetary storm where all the hydrogen, see, sulfuric acid is a very interesting substance. It can, even though Venus already has like volcanic activity and all this other crazy stuff that goes on it, but if you could imagine it at one point had water on it and everything, but then you had this greenhouse effect gas that just wiped everything out. Not only did it do that, but it absorbed everything and contaminated it. So what essentially it did was all the hydrogen, hydrogen still exists in its atmosphere, but it's contaminated. I forget exactly the element. I think it's like 2 hydrogens, sulfate, and then you have like 4 oxygens or something like that. I forget exactly the whole the substance formula for it, but sulfur is not. Sulfite, no, sulfuric acid, sulfuric dioxide, sulfuric trioxide, it's all dangerous. It's very contaminated. And if we can figure out how to get rid of that, then we just clean up what's in the core, create another, atmosphere, create another magnet field, if that's not the same thing. Just pretty much rebuild the same planet, just like people plan on recolonizing on Mars somehow. We can revive the planet somehow. The reason why people should go to Venus, though, why we should, in the future, is because, it's considered to be Earth's sister. So, seeing how, and even Carl Sagan actually kind of said something similar in one of his books, I forget exactly which one it was, where he said, like, when a planet is born, all the planets that are close to each other, the closer they are, the more they share something in common, because it's like they all start out the same. Venus is closest to Earth, and Mars is close to Earth too. And you think about all these other planets that existed within the same area, came from the same universe, came from the same solar system. It kind of we've been trying to figure out our origins on this planet, but it's like you think about all these other planets that look just like Earth, that very well could have been what they were now. So it kind of makes you wonder, if we could go to Mars and find fossils on it, would they be just like the fossils here on Earth? Could there have been dinosaurs on Mars and Venus at one point? Could there have been some sort of prehistoric life that evolved in the same way, and it's like the old saying where they say like the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree or something like that. Could our origins of the human race be that of Venus and Mars? The same thing, but in a different way. Because again, what's on Venus, what's on Mars? If we can just find some clue that can answer that question, it's really worth investigating, for science. Because, while it might look like it's impossible now, but if we work at it, we could find a way to go on that planet and maybe find something that really looks similar to that of what we've already seen, but we can confirm it for a fact that maybe our origins are pretty similar and that Venus and Mars are pretty much identical to that of Earth, as well as the planet Theia. Whatever happened to that planet, even though it crashed into Earth.